Hello, I'm Emily Barker. Welcome to a CPSU News Update. Given the current economic and political situation, this year's budget delivered a better than expected outcome for CPSU members and overstretched public services.
Well, it's great to see in this budget the dreaded efficiency dividend, which is the cut to every agency's budget, be decreased from 4 to 1.25%. Now, what that means is less pressure on jobs and services, and it's something that CPSU members have campaigned strongly on. So that's a real win.
However, the overall size of the public service will still decline by around 1,000 positions, and government will still claw back $580 million by saving on travel, accommodation and consultants. But the CPSU warns this is nothing compared to what Tony Abbott is proposing if he's elected.
Well, Tony Abbott is promising massive cuts to services that the Australian community relies on. He said he'll cut 12,000 jobs just for starters, and we can expect cuts that are much deeper, like we've seen with Campbell Newman in Queensland. That does permanent damage.
The CPSU is calling on Tony Abbott to come clean and tell the public which services he plans to cut if he's elected. CPSU National Secretary Nadine Flood said that as the election draws closer, Australians have a right to know what to expect. In his budget reply speech, Mr Abbott was big on rhetoric but shy on detail when it came to his plans for the public sector. Mr Abbott promised no surprises but has failed again to say how many public service jobs he will cut through his Commission of Audit. One thing is certain though, this year's budget is good news for public broadcasters and recognises the critical role they play in Australian public life. CPSU members at the ABC and SBS will receive an extra $100 million over the next 3 years. The union lobbied politicians hard for the extra funds they say was needed to sustain quality public broadcasting. It's been a busy period for union delegates and organisers who've netted thousands of dollars in back pay from Telstra call centres to the Brisbane docks. One Telstra member has just received $15,000 in back pay after the union helped her work through an underclassification problem. Meanwhile, another Telstra member landed an extra $5,000 after seeking complex advice from the union about moving from an individual contract to the enterprise agreement. And finally, CPSU members at the Port of Brisbane got a nice surprise when the union convinced the department to cough up $29,000 for the non-payment of their wharf allowance. And Canberra wasn't the only place going troppo about budgets this week, with the Northern Territory budget landing on the same day. Thanks to the newly elected Country Liberal Party, unions and community groups were excluded from the traditional budget preview. So CPSU members had to attend Parliament House to hear the details. However, they were refused entry because they were wearing their Cuts Hurt t-shirts. But instead of getting shirty about the lockout, the quick-thinking members turned their t-shirts inside out and marched back in to get their budget news, which unsurprisingly contained more nasty cuts to Territory services. For more information on these stories, go to the website and follow us on Twitter and Facebook.